Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brass Cat Tax Business Podcast. Dr. Keith Brassfield. Today, I'm super excited to have Stephen Blankenship on the show. Stephen, welcome. Thank you for being on.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Today, our guest, Stephen, has taken one of the boldest and healthiest leaps we've seen yet. After decades of following the standard American lifestyle, Stephen realized it was taking a serious toll on his health, happiness, and future. That wake-up call led to a new passion, helping others live well. After years of working in a successful construction career, Stephen traded blueprints for broccoli and beans for body care, becoming the proud owner of what we now know as LIVWELL Organic Market here in Leesburg. He took over the food health store in 2023, gave it a new name, a fresh mission, and a powerful purpose: to help people live well and in every sense of the word. So if you've ever wondered what it looks like to go from the job site to a juice bar, today we've got Stephen and how he's making a big impact in the way we live. Let's dive in and welcome Stephen. Thank you so much for being on again. And I definitely want to ask you lots of questions. I'm excited to have you on. But first, just tell all of our listeners a little bit about yourself and about your background and kind of how you came about purchasing the LIVWELL Organic Market.
Well, thank you, Keith, for this opportunity. As I think back now through the course of my life, it really started as I was a child. We grew up in a very rural area, pretty much homesteading. And so that's where my roots really stem from. Of course, you get into your late teens, early teens, want to see the rest of the world, want to kind of get out there, do your own thing. Life happens at that point. You start wandering away from those roots, and the American lifestyle kind of grabs you. Everybody wants to, kind of move up in the world. Everybody wants to have a good job, make the most money that they can. And, I was no different in that. Through my 20s and 30s, as I wandered further away from the lifestyle that I had known and grown up with, the standard American diet starts to set in. The 10 to 12 hour days, 6 days a week starts to set in. Next thing you know, you wake up and you're, 40 plus and you're having all kinds of issues. And that's kind of where it started for me. I was on a spiral downward. Took a long time to get that figured out. Went through conventional Western medicine first, and they were doing absolutely nothing for me. While I am a huge fan of our medical system from the respect of treating problems. Look, if you're having a heart attack, there's probably no better place in this world to be than this country. But when it comes to preventative care, we rank one of the last in the world. So I kind of gravitated over toward the natural side. And the more that I started learning, the more that I peeled the onion back, the more that I became very passionate about continuing to peel that onion, because I learned so much, and with each step that I tried, it worked. Things were working. So while the roots were always there, I decided to really dive into it, became really passionate about healthy lifestyles. And, the reality is you start to understand your mortality after you get beyond those years of being invincible. So I was at a 35-year career in construction. I loved it. I learned so much, and I'm very grateful for the fact that my father, was the one who really inspired me to get into construction. He was an electrician, so I kind of followed in his path. And after 35 years, I was done. And I had so much passion for wanting to share what I have learned that I decided, life is really short. And I wanted to find a vehicle by which, I can help other people moving forward in my life. I spent 50 some years of my life just consuming and kind of taken from the world. My goal for the rest of my life is to try to give back and share the knowledge that I have. So I looked at different avenues of trying to do that. And the last, I'll say, teen years-ish of my life, I would frequent a health food store. It was kind of my thing. On the weekends, I would go down to the local health food store, and I loved it. I loved everything about it, and got to learn even more. Befriended the owner of the store, and he and I would have great conversations, not only around products and health, but about where I was in my life. And he said, you should open a store. So I thought it was kind of a crazy idea at first, and
It always is crazy at first. You're absolutely right.
yeah, and then I got to thinking about it, and I was like, I do enjoy being around people. I love the products. I love everything about this industry. Maybe I'll give it a shot. So ended up finding a business here in Leesburg that was for sale. And here we are. I decided to pull the trigger. I retired. I ended up buying this business about 2.5 years ago. It has not been easy. I'm going to not sugar. It is retail is a very hard industry, and we can certainly dive into why that is hard and why I think models like this are in trouble. But to that end, that's kind of my background and how I
Yeah.
got to where I am today.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, and before we get into the business, which is definitely, I've got some questions there. If you're comfortable talking about it, Stephen, can you tell us some of the health challenges you were having and kind of what you learned along the way when you were trying more Western medicine versus more natural or holistic side of things?
Yeah. So a lot to unpack there, but I'll just keep it simple. And I might have some of the chronological order of this a little bit backwards, but um, I developed a battle of kidney stones. So I think that's about where it started. Then my legs would go numb when I was sitting down at my desk for 10 hours a day. My legs would go numb. I couldn't go up a set of stairs without, really hard heart palpitations. And to that end, I ended up having to go down this I'll call it spiral of testing associated with heart issues. Been able to work that out. And then, after that, some other issues that were really derived from injuries that I had. So that's kind of where it all started for me.
Was there a moment where you kind of, the doctors couldn't figure out, whether it was the kidney stone or the other symptoms you were having? And was there like an aha moment where you were like, when I started taking more natural route, you were getting better success or better results with the natural versus the medical route?
Yeah. So both from the medical side and from my own perspective, it was always, okay, it's got to be this one thing, this one thing that I'm doing, or this one pill that I need to take. There's this one thing. If there's one thing that I have learned, it is that it's never just one thing. The body is complicated, and the body is complex, and it wants to survive. And there's so many coping mechanisms built within our body that we have to understand all that. And it really is about lifestyle. It is all about lifestyle, not just one little thing. Through all of this, what I've learned is there's never a silver bullet, and it's always a confluence of things that you probably need to change and do differently. And the most important thing is that everything that I've learned that has the most benefit is the smallest steps that you take, and you do them consistently every day. That is what builds good health.
What are some of the things you did? What small steps did you take, Stephen, in your own health journey that you saw benefit from?
Yeah, so first and foremost, an elimination of sugar. I was addicted to it like most people are in this country. So trying to eliminate added sugars from your diet really started there. Hydration. Needed to stay hydrated, drink plenty of water, added minerals in there as well. For the kidney stone issue, it was also an oxalate issue. So I was consuming a lot of foods that were high in oxalates. And so I had to adjust that a little bit. Most importantly, and the science is very clear on this as well, the most important thing that I probably did to change life is I started getting active again, exercising, getting back in the gym. That is probably the most impact to my health for sure.
So glad you said that. I have clients all the time that you're exactly right. Everyone's looking for the quick fix or the magic bullet. But a lot of times, I mean, I feel like now people are very aware that diet and exercise are very important. And so my client, they don't like to hear that, because it takes work, it takes consistency, like you're saying. So, recommending to people, hey, stay active. And I think, for anyone listening, that doesn't mean you have to run a marathon 3 times a week. It could just be going for a 30-minute walk or an hour walk, especially now. I think, like you were mentioning, 10 hours at the desk all day or 12 hours at a computer. Our bodies are designed to move, and just a 30-minute or a 60-minute walk, for some people, obviously, depending on your age and your age and your diet and everything else and your activity and your lifestyle, sometimes the simplest things and just being consistent with it produce much better results. So while you were still, having this successful construction career, was it towards the end of the career that you started to kind of get into more healthy living and an active lifestyle, or was it only after you retired from the construction career?
No, it was definitely well before I had retired. I'm going to say 10 to 15 years in is when I really changed things around for sure. Yeah, if I would have waited until I retired or even close to it, quite literally, I could be dead. I had some heart issues that were going on that really scared me. And it took a long time to figure those out. And it was all about lifestyle. I still have an enlarged piece of my heart that they could never figure out. It was concluded, the cardiologist finally said, look, we've been running these tests for 5 years and nothing's changed. Maybe that's how you're built. So we kind of left that one alone. But everything else from mitral valve clicks to potentially a hole in my heart, we've been able to resolve all of those. So it was something that I had to take care of early on, or I wasn't going to be around. That was the truth of it.
Got it. And what do you like to do for exercise now, Stephen? What's your kind of weekly routine or your routine that you got to stick to stay healthy and active?
Yeah, so I will be completely honest here. Since I've bought this business, I have really let the consistent regiment kind of go. But I do every morning, I do a small routine that at least gets me moving. I try to get out in the sun every morning as well. When I have time, I will go and try to lift some weights. But my favorite form of exercise was HIIT training. I loved it. I used to do a lot of CrossFit, and I absolutely loved it. I ended up after COVID, like so many things, I kind of fell off the bandwagon, and then I obviously retired, and now I'm here, so kind of in a different phase of my life now. Will I go back to it? If I can get back to that level of performance, I would love to, but I absolutely love HIIT training.
Great. So taking a big pivot here from, a construction career to, owning a health food store. That's a pretty, like you mentioned earlier, a pretty scary transition. I've got two brothers in construction, and so I've kind of somewhat familiar with what they do. What was that like, stepping into a completely new industry, retiring from something that you were doing for, decades, and going into something completely unknown?
It's probably the scariest thing I've done in my life, to be quite frank. In fact, it was so scary for my family, I'm now divorced. I'm just going to be quite candid with you there.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's not something that I wish on anybody for sure. But to that end, I just realized that we only live for a blink of an eye on this planet in terms of obviously the overall time frame of Mother Earth. And you got to do what you want to do, and you got to live life. There's no second chances. I've definitely started over in my life, and I'm okay with that. You can't live life in fear. You got to move on. And I had gotten to a point in my existing life where it was all I could do to get out of bed to go to work every day. And the higher the food chain, I'll call it, the corporate ladder that you climb, the harder that it really gets, because the stress will kill you. Stress will kill you faster than anything. So it had just zapped the soul out of me. And it was time for a change. I wasn't doing any good there, being in that mental state. And I knew that my passions lied somewhere else. So I took the leap. It was scary, very scary. And sometimes I wake up and I wonder if I'm in a dream. I really do. It's tough when you do something for 35 years, and all of a sudden you change that overnight. It's not easy. It's not easy on the mind, not easy on the body. It's not easy trying to wrap your brain around what you're supposed to do that day. to be successful and to actually do what you want to do, which is help people. So it's been tough.
Looking back, is it something that you regretted or are you happy you made the change?
No, I don't regret it at all. I appreciate you asking that, and I often think about that. From a financial standpoint, sure, it hurts. I'm not going to exaggerate that. But the bottom line is you have to get over that mentally. Money isn't everything in this world, and it certainly doesn't buy happiness. You have to get over that. This country in specific is so full of greed and money driven that it drives a lot of problems in this country. So you got to get over that mindset. Now, of course, you got to live, as well. But nonetheless, I was able to get there, and I'm much happier right now with what I'm doing. I'm certainly not working less hours right now, but I'm having more fun doing it, and I have some flexibility to where I can do some things to try to obviously maintain my lifestyle and my healthy lifestyle.
So purchasing the store, had you been looking around for a health food store, or did it just kind of fall in your lap? Or had you looked at several different, types of businesses? What kind of landed you on LIVWELL Organic Market?
I'm a firm believer in nutrition starts with food. It starts with food. And that's kind of where I wanted to go was the farming side. Small farms are so important to communities in this country. I can't emphasize that enough. So I had actually bought a piece of property, and that was my goal. I wanted to do some organic farming. At my age at this point and trying to keep a farm going after being out there on the weekends, just trying to get to a point where I could get there, I realized that wasn't where my body was going to allow me to go. So to that end, I had always had this seed planted by my mentor at the health food store that, look, you could do this. So I decided, you know what? Yeah, maybe, and I could be around more people that way. And I'm much happier around more people. So to that end, I decided to, kind of scratch the farming idea, even though I'll digress for a second. I would like to incorporate, growing our own vegetables and selling them at our market. I would love to be able to get to that point. But to that end, I kind of punted and decided this was the route that I wanted to go instead.
Well, you do have a lot of resources there at the store. What kind of, in addition to obviously the nutrition or the health knowledge, what do your customers get on a regular basis when they come in the store? Is it more knowledge and information, or do you tend to see a lot of customers coming in purchasing the same types of products or supplements?
A little bit of both there. We have some demographics that want to be left alone and they just want to do their shopping. And we have some demographics that come in and love to have conversations centered around health and nutrition. And then we have some, we offer seminars. We do some seminars as well. But we also have a customer base that comes in that is in need of whatever support we can give them. And this is where it really breaks my heart is that we'll get a customer that'll come in and they'll be honest that, look, I haven't necessarily subscribed to the supplement and the healthy side of living. And I was just diagnosed with X. And all of a sudden, the switch gets flipped on in their mind, and they're willing to take whatever information that they can get relative to really saving their life. And that's what it boils down to. If I could just get to those people before that,
Yeah.
oftentimes it's too late. It's so sad because most disease, is lifestyle driven. And if we just understand that at the critical points in our life, we can certainly save ourselves a lot of pain and suffering. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think unfortunately a lot of people, that turning point sometimes has to happen. That switch or that diagnosis is sometimes the only thing that will get them to change their lifestyle or their habits. If you do have someone coming into your store, what type of advice do you give them if they're looking to just completely change gears? Say if they're being honest to you, Stephen, and they're saying, hey, my diet's horrible. I don't exercise a lot. My stress is through the roof. I work too much. What direction can you point me in? What are the kind of just some basic things that you can offer at your store or advice that you can give them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Really, it's about trying to learn where they are in their journey of life. Some people just want to hear something. They're not really wanting to make that change yet. They're just not mentally there. Some people are gung ho and they're just ready to jump in with both feet. And they will definitely adhere because they're more structured. With most people, you just have to take baby steps. You have to start small. Start with the smallest things that they can incorporate into their life without changing their lifestyle overnight. That's what I've noticed works the most. And if you can convince them to do one little thing and they see benefit from it, they will be back for a thirst of information to learn more. And that's where we try to start. Take the most simplest thing that they could do to make a life improvement and try to encourage them to take a baby step. You don't have to do it every day. Do it once a week. Then move it to 3 times a week. Then move it to every day. That's where the biggest improvements and I think the most benefit that we can have on people.
Okay. I know the supplement world can be overwhelming. A lot of my clients come in and they're, oh, should I take this supplement or that supplement? Or I saw Instagram and Facebook and all I feel like the online world of supplements has been a booming industry. So with your store and your retail location, what are the things you look for in a high quality supplement, and so that you know that your customers are getting kind of the best type products?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. First of all, when you walk into a place like ours, it can be overwhelming for sure. For someone who doesn't, can't navigate, I'll call it the supplement, different classifications and what they can do and not do and what have you, it's overwhelming. And that's why we're here for sure. To that end, I personally vet all of the supplements that we put on our shelves. You are exactly right. There is no shortage of supplements out there. The market, let's face it, the market's saturated. Every week there's a new person out of their backyard trying to sell a supplement. It's saturated. But there's reason to be careful, and I would certainly proceed with caution. So, first and foremost, I'd like to get one thing straight. I'm not a pill pusher. While the supplement side of our business is the only thing that keeps us in business, I'm going to be quite frank with that. We're not pill pushers whatsoever. Nutrition and health starts with food and exercise. And that's where we try to start. But there is a place for supplements without doubt in our lifestyle. And one of the things there's several things, criteria that we look for when we vet out supplement manufacturers. So first and foremost, are they manufacturing products in a GMP certified lab? That's foremost. Got to happen.
What's GNP? Tell the listeners what GNP means.
Yep. So good manufacturing practices. So it's an organization that does inspections on manufacturing facilities to make sure that they're adhering to a certain standard of process. So that's very important. And it's a very trusted organization. Now, Canada does things a little bit different up there. They have a great program as well. As a matter of fact, in Canada, most of their supplements, and to my knowledge, all of their supplements go through the same safety standard protocols as their pharmacology medications up there. So can be very respected up there from the supplement industry. But to that end, the next thing is this company manufacturing their own supplements, or are they farming it out? So that's the next thing that I look for. There's some great manufacturing facilities out there that manufacture for a lot of different brands, and you just get to know those through being connected. But nonetheless, I need to know, are you manufacturing your own? And if not, where are they coming from? The next thing is, for me, is that you third-party testing all of your source materials. Let's face it, we don't manufacture or grow a lot of our source. We do a lot in this country, but we can't source everything from this country. There's some things that just don't grow well in this country. They have to be sourced from India or China or some other country. It just has to be that way. So are you testing those materials when they come in? Manufacturers are required to third-party test every batch of source materials that they get. Ask the questions. Is that being done? And for us, I'll give you some examples. Sometimes I'll see a product go out of stock. So I'll ask the question, hey, this has been out of stock for a long time. What's going on here? And if the answer is, yeah, we were testing source materials and some of them were failing, then you know you're dealing with a good company. Somebody that's testing their own material, or at least testing at some level, whether it's done in-house or third party, preferably third party. Some of them also have their own certified testing facilities. But if they're telling you that, hey, our test failed on some of our source materials, that is a good sign. That's a sign of a good company. The next thing is, fillers, fillers that are in products. You want to minimize that, if not eliminate it. There are some things like magnesium stearates and silicone dioxide you got to be careful with. We try to minimize manufacturers that include a lot of those materials. Definitely no fillers. We won't allow something that has a filler. But from a manufacturing process, there are some processes where some of that has to be done in order to formulate the tablet or whatever form it's in. We vet out what's in these products. The next thing for us is, how do they go to market? Do they have some sort of minimum acceptable pricing policy in place such that they're not allowing somebody off the street to buy these and sell them on Amazon at a super reduced price? What it does is it destroys the integrity of the brand, and it also hurts the retailers from a price perspective. So we do that. So those are just some of the things that we do. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of manufacturers out there, so it is a lot of work. And the brands that we have on our shelf, we definitely trust, and we vet out, and we keep an eye on it. It's not easy, but there's an effort going on right now, and it's been going on for a while now. And it's not just limited to the supplement industry. It's happening across industries in general. Is the consolidation of companies. You'll get an investment group that'll come in. They'll either buy the brand, or you'll get a larger company like a Clorox or a Nestle or something like that that'll come in and try to swoop up as much of this industry as they can. And it is going on in a rampant rate right now. To that end, it's something I try to keep an eye on. It has been my experience that when that happens, you will see a degradation of sometimes quality, but most certainly customer service. So we keep an eye on that as well, and it's not easy to keep up with right now for sure. That one's a tough one right there.
That's interesting, because I see the same thing when I go to the health dog food store. The owner says the exact same thing. They're like, "Oh, yep, we don't carry that brand anymore because it's not owner operated and everything. Some big corporation came and bought it up." So with the relationships that you've got now with the brands that you carry in your store, have you been able to, foster some good connections in there and be able to network with some companies to just ensure the fact that they're, the quality is there, they're not getting bought out by a big corporation? And are those kind of the types of brands that you like to bring in when you're deciding? Because you've only got so much shelf space, right? So is there a process for deciding what earns a spot on your shelf at LIVWELL Organic Market?
Yeah, it's a good question. I love the smaller companies that even have the capability of manufacturing things themselves. We definitely love that. Some of the smaller, older brands are just fantastic lines. Shelf space is a premium for sure, and it is tough. There's some main brands that we do carry that have definitely been gobbled up by bigger companies. I'm not going to suggest that you won't find one of those on our shelf. I'm certainly keeping an eye on it. They're still very reputable brands, and they're still requested by a lot of customers and practitioners. And by the way, we carry a lot of just practitioner grade products as well. But nonetheless, yes, we keep an eye on it, and it's not easy. And we have developed great connections in the industry to allow us to, try to get a better handle on that.
What would you say are the top 3 most popular supplements that you sell?
For us, wow, top 3. Okay, so I would say for us.
And it doesn't have to be 3, Stephen. If you can rattle off 4 or 5, that's fine. I just try to keep it simple.
Yeah, Natural Factors for us, which is a Canadian company, we do very well with them. Blue Bonnet, there's another one we do well with. Mega Food, we do very well with. Pure Encapsulations, we do well with. Ortho Molecular, we do well with. Emerald Labs, I love Emerald Labs, one of my favorite manufacturers. We do very well with those guys. Herbs Etc., Oregon's Wild Harvest, which just does herbs. Fantastic company out of the Midwest, or I should say the Northwest. So those are some that we just love.
And you mentioned earlier you not only sell supplements and give advice, but you guys do, you said workshops or seminars as well. What are those like?
Yeah, we do, and it's kind of where my passion is, and we don't do near enough. So it is a place where I want to get to, where we are doing a lot more of them and on a consistent basis and bringing in some really great guest speakers. But right now, it's pretty limited. We do a few, and we do also some testing type, diagnostic type events as well. We've done live blood analysis, we've done ultrasound, breast screenings, hair tissue mineral analysis, some homeopathy we've done as well. So those are some things, but it's a place where I'm trying to get to on a little more consistent basis and try to fill up the schedule a little more with opportunities.
Absolutely. And obviously, like you said earlier, running a business is a very difficult thing. So we find this a lot on the podcast whenever I have a guest on. It is extremely scary. It's definitely not for everyone, but as you said, it can also be very rewarding and just really, it sounds like in your case, Stephen, it's definitely, a passion. What kind of keeps you motivated or what are some of the difficulties, I guess, that were either seen or unseen when you took over the business, or some things you may or may not have anticipated running your own health food store?
Yeah, I'll two things there. First of all, I'll touch on the first thing about the passion first that keeps driving me. When someone comes into our store and they're just so grateful for us being here, and it exudes from their body, and we love that. That's what drives me. When somebody says thank you for being here and thank you for helping me, there's just that is what drives me.
What were any anticipated or unseen
Uh,
factors that you didn't really realize about running a small business or your own health food store?
yeah, this is a big one. Completely underestimated how people go to market now for buying in general and it's changing dramatically each year. And I'm talking about the concept of online buying. We are in the process right now of trying to stand up our own web store. It is something that I was vehemently against at the forefront of this mission. And because I want to try to stay local, we're a community. Communities are so important. And I wanted to, try to instill that community type of small business. And the reality is most of our customers, even though they come in to get a few things, they will admit that they're buying a lot of their stuff online. So I completely underestimated how much business is happening online. And to be quite frank, it's destroying these businesses. It's destroying retail, small businesses in general. And I just didn't see that. And we're trying to fix it right now, and we're going to offer a couple of things when we go online, which is hopefully going to happen here shortly. But to that end, that's been my biggest disappointment, I think, so far, is that most people are shopping online.
Yeah, we're at my office here. We're big promoters of just supporting local businesses and retail because during the pandemic, when everything shut down, I was very active in the local small business community. So are there any types of, like, the community you currently have? What do you feel like is their biggest need right now, or people that have come into the store and if they're not shopping online? Because people do want that sense of community, like you're saying, and that is a huge part of business where they may or may not get that online. So what type of community do you like to foster at the health food store?
Yeah, great question. So you're right. People who are buying online, they're really not getting that social interaction and information associated with products that they're buying or health information in general. And it's a real problem from my perspective. But the world's changing. So to that end, what we offer is we offer the education that can go along with that. So I'm a huge fan in social connection. We're social animals. We're social beings. The science, backs that up. Just communicating with someone over a text is not truly a social interaction. We thrive as a community when we can look somebody in the eye and we can have conversations and watch our body language and our emotions and feel those emotions. It is so important to the wiring of our brains. I cannot underestimate the importance of that. So that's one of the things that we offer. The other things, we participate in helping other businesses around. We collaborate, we share contact information, we help promote other businesses, we work with some other businesses, we work with practitioners as well, we help refer people to local practitioners and vice versa. So, and we, employ from the local community. Everybody that we employ is right here from around Leesburg. So there's a lot of things that we do to help and give back to our community. And that's the real importance of local small business.
Since you've had the business now for 2.5 years, what's maybe the biggest misconception a customer of yours has? Say it's their first time walking into your store. What's a common misconception they may have about their health or a supplement?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think the biggest misconception from my perspective in taking over this business is that people only see us as a vitamin shop, and we are so much more. We have an outstanding organic grocery section and a great natural body care section. It's not uncommon for us to see customers that had known this business before that will come right in, right past all of that, and they'll go right to the supplement section. And on the way out, I'll have a conversation with them about something that's going on in their life usually. And they'll talk about, yeah, I like this. We'll talk about an ailment and I'll say, well, this food can help that. And they'll say, well, do you have food? I am not exaggerating that one bit. And I'll just kind of point over with a little smirk and I'll say, well, we have several aisles of organic food and pasture-raised meats and what have you. So it's the biggest misconception, I think, from the community is that we're just a vitamin shop. We are not, Now, it may have been like that before, but it's not now. And it's been really hard to try to I think, get that message out that we're so much more than that.
I did not know that you had organic groceries, so that changing that perception can be difficult, especially taking over another small business. Definitely think that's something. What type of organic things do you have for your customers in the store?
Yeah, so one of the things that we struggle with, I'll start with that, is that we have every corporate retailer that you can think of in Leesburg. So what I'm saying is we've got a lot of competition. We cannot compete with those guys, and we're not trying to. So what we try to do is we try to focus on anything that we can get local first. So that's the number one thing that we look for. The second thing is, what are those principles by which they guide their business with if we go that direction? Outside of that, we try to stick to products that you can't necessarily find on the shelves of everyone else. We want to try to be unique, and we're trying to set ourselves apart. But we are the traditional health food store of things that you're going to find in here. We have an outstanding selection of grains and flours. Matter of fact, we work with a local flour mill that's in Virginia. Matter of fact, it's, to my knowledge, the oldest and only still operating stone water-powered mill in Virginia. So we source a lot of grains and flours from those guys. Pasture-raised meats, we work with 2 different farms on that, from poultry to beef to a little bit of pork products, not a lot, to raise eggs. Right now, from a vegetable side, we are only working with 2 different farms on CSAs, so we don't have a vegetable selection right now. It's someplace I want to get to, but it's tough to get there. But nonetheless, we're going to. Just takes time. We're working with CSAs on that. And everything in between. When it comes to teas, we have some great selections of teas, coffees, snacks, of course, healthy snacks. You won't find something on our shelves that has seed oils in it. We try to, we don't try. It is our goal to make sure that we don't have products on our shelves that has, things that are going to contribute negatively to your health. Now, there's some fine lines there. Just because we have a selection of maybe avocado oil potato chips doesn't mean that it's necessarily healthy for you. Let's just say that it's less bad for you. So we definitely have pretty much a whole selection of I'll call it just about in every department of food selections in a small space.
Do you find some of your customers try to supplement their way to health versus just having a healthy diet and healthy lifestyle?
We see it all the time. And it's really I think the mindset of what we have learned growing up from conventional medicine. There's a pill for this and give me a pill for that. Yes, we see it a lot. And I make it clear, you can never supplement your way out of out of an unhealthy lifestyle. I'll say it that way. It's tough. There is most certainly a role for supplementation in one's life, but it needs to be done with guidance, and it needs to be done with a reason why you're doing it. But nonetheless, see it all the time.
Do you think our foods in the grocery stores are depleted, versus how they used to be maybe 50 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, no question about it. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I love working with local farms. I love it. There's just no better way to get your nutrients than doing it from a local farm. So to that end, there's a lot to unpack there. I can't remember the stat, but there is some science out there to suggest that if we don't correct our farming principles, specifically the monocultural farming principles, that all of our topsoil is going to be gone within a finite amount of time. It is eroding at a rapid pace. It's getting worse. I can't remember that time frame, but it's within our lifetime. Let's just put it that way. It's a scary proposition. To that end, yes, unequivocally, there are certain nutrients that have just been depleted, and you're not getting them from the foods that you have. Magnesium is one of them. We pretty much all are deficient in magnesium. And that's a foundational mineral. And that is definitely one where supplementation is going to be necessary.
That's what I feel like is such a tricky, thing for people to understand, because the supplement industry is very big for a reason. It's because our foods have been depleted. There's, magnesium is not as abundant as it used to be in our foods. I'm sure there's many others as well. How do you find the right balance of, eating healthy, whether it's organic or if it's from a local farmer or pasture raised meats, to also, supplementing your diet at the same time? What kind of advice would you have for everybody?
Yeah, the best way to do it really is to work with someone, a practitioner at some level, so that you can get some sort of, I'll call it benchmarks from what you need to be correcting. It's really the only way to do it. Sure, you can do it by, um, kind of how your body feels. And that's okay if you're really in tune with your body and you understand a little bit about supplementing, and you also understand something about nutrition. But there is no substitute for, doing labs, having labs along with other testing that could kind of guide you. And I also understand that some of that is not cheap. And I also understand that if you're going the natural route, it's not going to be covered by insurance. It's one of the biggest problems we have in this country is that gap right there. And it's so unfortunate. But to that end, it's really the only way that you can target what you need to be doing for optimizing your health.
Back to the business, Stephen. What's one, and making just kind of this big career change that you've done, what's advice you'd give to somebody if they're looking to either change their career or possibly start a small business? What's the one thing you've learned, or any advice you could give somebody who's thinking about doing that?
Well, at the risk of using some superfluous words here, there's a book that I read, it's been several years ago now, but I'm just going to say it. And if you've got to edit this, that's fine.
It's
But
okay.
it says, fuck it, do what you want. It's an excellent book. I'm not suggesting that it influenced me in my decision, but it's an excellent book, and it kind of sums up exactly the answer to your question. But it's tough. Everybody's on a different journey in life, and everybody's also in a different financial situation in life. So there's no one size fits all. It's where you are in your life and what makes you happy. The best advice that I can have is you have to try to balance that lifestyle no matter what. And if there's one thing that you need to do, prioritize exercise. There's no better evidence about healthy lifestyles than exercise. There's no pill that can do better than exercise. The science is really clear on that. You can supplement, and you should, and certain nutritional plans require different types of supplementation. But the facts are the facts. The science is so clear when it comes to increasing your health span and your lifespan. Exercise should be your number one priority.
Wonderful. What do you have coming up, or how can people find you if they want to either come into your store or eventually when you get the online store up and running? If listeners are looking for a health food store or an organic market, what's the best way to find you, Stephen?
Well, thank you. So from a physical location, we're kind of nestled into the corner of what's called the Toll House Shopping Center right here in historic Leesburg. If you know where the Mom's Apple Pie is, just look left. Online, we have a great website. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Just keep in mind I'll call it those tags are LIVWELL Organic Market, and there's no E in the live. So just keep that in mind when you're searching. So it's LIVWELL. But thank you.
You're welcome. And do you guys have any upcoming events or any new products that you're bringing on in the store that you'd like to tell our listeners about?
Well, this fall, we are going to be running another breast screening ultrasound event. I don't have anything else on the calendar from an event side right now, but we're always bringing in new products. To that end, my focus right now has literally been and is going to continue to be until we get to a comfortable level of trying to get us into an online store. I think that it's paramount to the success of businesses that are in this model, in this space. So that is right now, that's been my goal.
Got it. And my last question for you, Stephen, what does living well mean to you in this season of life?
Yeah, so living well is about enjoying life. It really is. You have to be grateful for every single day that you wake up. Try not to focus too hard on the future. Certainly don't dwell on the past, and live in the present. Whatever you do, live in the present.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Stephen, for being on the podcast. We really appreciate it. For those of you that are listening, definitely go check out Stephen's LIVWELL Organic Market. Like he said, right there in downtown Leesburg. When you hit Mom's Apple Pie, look left. And yeah, Stephen, thanks for being on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Brassfield. It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful.